I'd like to call the meeting to order, if I could. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
It is 8:30. We will start this morning's meeting with a roll call of the board members. Director Perotti.
Here.
Director McQuarrie. I see he's connecting to audio as we speak. I'll come back. Director Rodriguez.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, good. Director Sheeler.
Present.
Vice Chair Tabor.
Here.
I'll come back. Director McQuarrie. Audio is not working. We will pass. We do have a quorum. Director Weinberg is absent, and Director McQuarrie is attempting to connect his audio as we speak here. Okay. Madam Clerk, could I have the report regarding the posting of the agenda, please?
Good morning,
Christina. Good morning.
Good morning. The agenda was posted on December 4th, 2020 at MTD's administrative office, mailed and emailed to those on the agenda list, and posted on MTD's website.
Good. Thank you very, very much. That takes us to the consent calendar. There are two items this morning. Item 4 is the approval of the prior minutes for the meeting of November 17th, 2020. The other item is item 5. This is the cash report for the period November 7th through November 27th, 2020. Are there any questions or comments on the consent calendar before we look for a motion? Director Sheeler.
Thank you, Chair. These are probably pretty minuscule, but I still was wondering about them nonetheless. Under our money market cash report, it actually indicates passenger fares of $190.50. But I was just wondering if that's just some residual clearing of accounts or whether just how there would be any fares charged.
My assumption is it's a residual, but I'll look into it and get you an answer if it's anything different.
Yeah, not a big deal. It just seemed odd. It's good that that is out there also. The other one I wanted to talk about is on the accounts payable. I guess go-getters are the folks that deliver our packets to us. And there's a $480 check written to them. And I'm just wondering, is that for 1 month's worth of courier service, or is it based on the number of meetings and deliveries they make?
It's based on the number of deliveries that they make, but I'll have to get you the time frame that was included in that check. If you don't have it for me.
Yeah, because that would make a big difference if it was a longer period of time. I mean, if that was just to deliver for 2 meetings, that seems rather steep to me. Let's see if I have anything else on here. Oh, yes. This has to do, it's 125344, and it's Evershade LLC, and it talks about steam cleaning bus stops. It sounds like a great idea. Now, is that something that's done only in certain places at certain times?
Yes, it's targeted to specific locations. It's something that it's an enhancement to our bus stop program, and I'll certainly share more with you at one of our future board meetings if you'd like.
It's just good because these are more watched by more than just the board. There's other people that look at these on YouTube. And just for the public to know the efforts that MTD is making to try and keep the system working for everybody. And the next one has to do with Newton Construction, Transit Center renovations. That's a nice even number, 100,000. Is that a final payment, or are we still going to have additional later payments before this project is closed?
Yeah, my recollection is it was kind of a placeholder for the final payment. We were working out a couple of final change orders and credits to the account, and I think Mr. Davis will be wrapping that up in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments till we go to a motion? Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Rodriguez, Director Rodriguez to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Perotti, we will do a roll call vote on that. Director Perotti,
Aye.
Director McQuarrie,
Yes.
Director Rodriguez,
Yes.
Director Sheeler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tabor,
Yes.
Chair Davis votes yes. Consent calendar is approved unanimously. Thank you very much for that. Concluding the consent calendar takes us to public comment. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak to us about items that are not on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who wishes to speak?
We have no public comment for this item.
Good, thank you very much for that. Takes us to an item which kind of saddens me a little bit. This is the recognition of Director Olivia Rodriguez. We have a resolution in front of us. I'm going to read the resolution, and then I'm going to ask each of us if we'd like to make a few comments. Let's see if you can hold this one together, Olivia, because it's going to be tough for me to get through. Okay, whereas.
Don't get me
Olivia-
started, Dave.
We'll both go at the same time. Whereas Olivia Rodriguez has served as a board member of the Santa Barbara Metropolitan Transit District for 13 years. And whereas Olivia's leadership and experience as a lifelong community servant benefited public transit service throughout the South Coast of Santa Barbara County. And whereas Olivia advocated for human resources practices that valued diversity to create an enriched workplace environment in which employees are hired based on their skill and qualifications. And whereas Olivia's effort to enhance the district's ethical standards and hiring practices are reflected throughout the organization via its policies and workforce. And whereas Olivia's professional experience provided critical support and guidance to the board on a variety of legal matters such as collective bargaining, liability, and risk. And whereas Olivia's professionalism and skill was evident during numerous negotiations and through her service on the Finance, Human Resource and Risk Committee, and Olivia's expectation of prudent financial management was most evident in her persuasive support for funding the district's OPEB trust account to address unfunded liabilities. And whereas in doing so, Olivia helped to preserve and further the district's reputation within the community. In recognition and gratitude for these achievements to the betterment of the South Coast of Santa Barbara County, the board and staff of the district wholeheartedly thank Olivia Rodriguez.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I would open the floor to other members of the board who would like to say anything regarding Olivia's service to us and her friendship to each of us individually. Anyone wishing to speak, raise your hand. Director Perotti.
Well, I'll start and I hope I can hold it together. 13 years. Wow, that's a long time. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your dedication, your commitment, your knowledge of the law, all that you've done for MTD. And, I especially want to thank you for reaching out to me when I was a newbie and assuring me that I would understand things before long. I had many deer in the headlight moments and you were always comforting, and I thank you for that. And I look forward to us getting together when we can and toasting you and getting to know you better
Thank you, Paula.
as we move on.
It's been
Thank
a
you, Olivia.
pleasure
Thank you so
also
much.
working with you.
Director Tabor, Vice Chair Tabor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll be missed. There's a professionalism about you, and you exhibit it in a very warm and friendly manner instead of a cold manner, and that's unique in an individual. And it makes me realize one thing that Zoom is missing out of all the features it has. It doesn't have a hug feature. So we'll take care of that in the future, though. Thank you, Olivia.
Dave. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Director McQuarrie.
Well, I didn't realize it's been that many years, but
There was a break. There was a little break there, but
yes,
cumulatively.
well, and also I hate to say it, but in her prior life and my prior life, she voted to get rid of me as a consultant.
I did?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it was a job well done. But I did find out in dealing with Olivia that lawyers do have a heart.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
that changed my whole perception of attorneys. But it's been great working with you. You saved me a lot of reading through some of these long, laborious legal challenges that we face, and you've always interpreted it and put it in such plain language that even someone like me could understand it. So I really appreciate your friendship and the friendliness that you brought to the board. I think we've had a great board, and you've made it just that much better, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Ditto.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Bill, Director Sheeler.
It's a little hard to have people talk about me, really.
It's time. Bill, you're muted. There you go.
All right, thank you. I'm now clicked in. I just wanted to lead off by saying this is the most capable and synergistic board I've ever worked with. And the second thing I wanted to say is I want to thank Olivia and the board at that time for hiring me 8 years ago. I appreciate that. Thank you. And the thing, as I thought through it, that in terms of synergy that contributed the most in an area where it's definitely necessary is Olivia's concern for the well-being of MTD's employees and MTD's customers. So that's something we'll need to think about going forward with this void. And lastly, just optimistically, when the pause button is taken off and we start up again, definitely need to get together and celebrate what you've done for the district. So congratulations and thank you. And hopefully we'll have someone who can take your place that will be just as capable.
I know you will. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Olivia, do you happen to have your recognition thing
I do. And of course, it's beautiful. Thank you. I was going to call, but I know everybody's so busy. Can you all see? It's just beautiful, beautiful crystal blue. I'm trying to figure out, I've been moving it around. I posted it with my children and they're like, oh, but they don't seem to care that much, but I do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much from everybody.
Okay, I'm going to give the last word here before we come to for any final words from you to General Manager Estrada.
I'll make it short too.
Yeah, okay, Jerry.
Thank you, Chair Davis. You know, Director Rodriguez, I can't thank you enough for your service, not only to the district, but, you know, the example you've set, you know, for me. Your first tour on the board was when I was first, you know, kind of moving up into the executive level realm. And at that point, really, you set the bar high, and, you know, for, you know, integrity and transparency. And it's something that I took to heart and I've tried to follow. And, you know, I appreciate the mentorship really over the years. And I think consistent with Director Sheeler's comments, the empathy, you know, and never forget who it is we're serving, never forget about our workforce. You've been consistent for 13 years, reminding us, you know, at this level, that's something we can never lose sight of. And I can assure you, I'll do everything I can to continue that legacy that you set. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Olivia, the floor is yours for a moment.
Okay, I could talk for an hour and thank everybody, but I'm just going to make it brief because we've got a long whatever this thing, the last meeting we have. But I am honored to have served for as long as I've served, and I've learned so much. And who thought that, you know, transportation board would be something that I would enjoy and would be on this long. I thought this was going to be a couple, 3 years, 4-year stint, and I was done. But I've learned so much, and I really, truly believe that this is one of the most amazing boards I've ever served on. The people who have sat with me through all these years. And of course, Jerry coming up through the ranks, and Sherry and everybody who works there, who runs the agency. It's such a dedicated agency. Everybody's so dedicated, responsible, hardworking. It made it so easy for us as a board, and continue to make it really easy to sit on this board, because we know that we have this amazing team behind us, or, you know, and I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud of having served on this board, and letting you, allowing me to serve this long, and Jerry, just everybody, and all the mentors, Dave, everybody who's helped me when I first came in and kind of gave me a nudge. And it takes a while, Paula. It takes a couple years to, and even after that, you still forget the stuff. There's just so much with this agency. So again, like I said, I could go on forever, but again, it's been my honor, and I'm hoping that at some point, maybe we can just have a quick little barbecue, little drink or something, and get together. I want to hug everybody again after we all get vaccinated. And thank you so much. And Jerry, I wish you the best. And I'll be showing up to a meeting or two, and I'll come and be watching. But I wish you the best to the board, and to Jerry and the crew and the team. Hang in there. Better times are coming, I hope. I really do hope. And you guys do an amazing job, and keep it up. And thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Olivia, personally, I feel it a personal honor to serve with you, and I will severely miss my friend there on the board. We've been together for a long time here. So it's my honor also to basically make a motion, a resolution of the Board of Directors honoring the service of MTD Director Olivia Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, everybody second.
Could we make this a roll call vote?
Yes, we will. Yes, sir. It's a resolution. And so I'm going to start with Director Perotti.
Aye.
Director McQuarrie.
Definitely yes.
Director Rodriguez.
Yes, I have to vote on my own. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We want it unanimous.
Okay.
Director
Okay.
Sheeler.
I vote the same as Olivia.
Yes.
Is that legal? Are you sure, Dave? No.
Yes.
Vice Chair Tabor.
If I vote no, does she have to stay?
Yeah. We could consider that. We could consider that. Yes.
Don't
Okay.
make it any harder on me, guys.
And it's my honor basically to cast the deciding and unanimous vote. Olivia, thank you. Everybody.
I'll miss you all. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Back to business, huh?
Back
Right
to
off the-
business.
Right off the top. Item 8, microtransit van procurement, Director or General Manager Estrada. You're muted, Jerry. There you go.
Thank you. There you go. I'll be handing this off to Ms. White, our purchasing agent, to introduce this item and make the recommendation to the board to purchase the microtransit vans that we've been talking about for some time. Ms. White?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Estrada, and thank you, board members, for your time today. And thank you, Director Rodriguez, for your service. Looking to future endeavors, MTD's microtransit project is a small-scale, on-demand public transit service that will be provided by smaller vehicles to go curb to curb to any address within the service zone. If Mr. Zuniga, yeah, perfect, thank you. The image before you is the plan design. Staff has selected a 2021 Ford 350 raised roof transit van with Lightning eMotors electric propulsion for zero emissions and ADA access with mobility solutions and van modifications by NorCal. There is room for 9 passengers or seating for 7 passengers and 1 mobility device. It will have the capability to plug into the level 2 chargers that our non-revenue service fleet currently connects to, or the level 3 chargers that we intend to procure for our growing battery electric transit fleet. They have a range of 120 miles before recharge. Last month, CalAct, the purchasing cooperative, contracted with A to Z Bus Sales for the Ford 350 EL van. It's a cooperative purchasing opportunity that provides favorable pricing resulting from the collective purchasing power of multiple agencies. The CalAct opportunity follows the same best practice guidelines that MTD does and conforms to all MTD policies. The procurement was through an RFP that sought best value. It was based on price, available options, warranty, service, references, qualifications, ability to deliver. And A to Z Bus Sales was the top ranking van provider. Here at MTD, we had performed an independent cost estimate, or ICE, by looking at other agency procurement efforts. By comparing the bids they received to provide for battery electric vans, it was determined that the benchmark cost for a base battery electric van would be $200,144. The CalAct base electric van is $179,821. So the CalAct represents 10% cost savings from the ICE. With the addition of the graphics you see and the fare box and the other MTD specifications and tax, the total comes to $225,684 per van. The cost then of 3 vans totals $677,053. Let's address the budget. This year's capital budget had already set $260,000 of state transit assistance, STA funding for the vehicles. The difference or shortfall would be pulled from available TDA, STA capital funds. So the recommendation here today is requesting a revision to the capital budget. However, note, this week, CARB will be announcing the HVIP voucher availability and the amounts for the next fiscal year. So HVIP is the grant program that provides clean transportation incentives, and once applied, has the potential to provide MTD with up to $155,250 towards the purchase. Okay, I do want to save some time for questions and comments that I am happy to address. And I also have Hillary Blackerby, the microtransit project manager, on the line to answer as well, as we have been anticipating bringing this forward to you today, and request to the board to authorize general manager to purchase 3 microtransit vans from A to Z Bus Sales through the CalAct Purchasing Cooperative for a total of $677,053. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White, for that presentation and an excellent report. Really good. And I like the pictures of the vans. Hillary, that color's really going to grow on me, so you're going to get there with me. I just want to remind all board members, if you're not basically speaking, mute yourself when you're not speaking so we don't get background noise. Are there any questions of Ms. White at this point before we go to public comment? I got to widen my screen here to see who's raising their hand. Okay, I got Director Sheeler and then Director Tabor.
Director Tabor can go first. That's fine with me.
As he has yielded the floor to you, Mr. Tabor.
Fine with me. I was wondering whether the feds, I know the feds put the transit vehicles through a pretty rigorous testing process before they can hit the road. Is this a class of vehicle that goes through a similar testing process?
Well, I appreciate you asking that question, because at the time of the RFP, that Altoona testing and all the testing that you typically do for federally funded buses was not yet even available for this. So this is not federally funded. That we're not using FTA funds for this, and it's not an FTA project yet. Those vans will be coming as this program grows.
Okay, Director Sheeler.
Thank you, Chair. I had several questions on this, so thanks. It talks about 120-mile range. Is that going to be considered adequate for 1 day service, or is there going to need to be planned some layover charging times?
That tends to be right in the, we'll do a full day, but if Hillary has actual data on that, I would like to give her an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, we don't really know, exact until we are in service, but the area that at least our initial pilot area we're looking at in Goleta, especially since we will be generally having 2 vehicles out there at any time. I don't expect them to get close to that full range in a day. So I think it fits our specifications essentially.
Okay, thank you. Would the plan be, when everything comes together, that these would be charged and housed at overpass?
I can take that one. The plan right now is that they'll be housed and charged at Terminal 1. Since we've had the extra charges we put in with the Chevy Bolt project, the light duty, so we'll go with that. But long-term, absolutely, as we build out and recommission Terminal 2, we'll want to consider putting in these types of chargers level 2 there as well.
One of the things that changed as a result of the COVID is, and the change, it kind of made us go back a bit and then to find out that these vans are no longer available in a diesel series and only available as electric vehicles. How much more are these vans going to cost us, not in long term, but just up front, than if we had purchased the same number of vans with the diesel that was previously available? Is it the same cost? Is it more? If you could kind of give me just a scale of what we're getting here compared to what we would have gotten.
Valerie?
Yep, I can definitely answer that. So that is the difference that we were talking about in the capital budget. The 3 diesel vans was going to be, and we were going to fuel with renewable diesel. Let me just put a little asterisk there. But we had set that at $260,000. And now the electric option is available. So that's where the difference now is for $179,821.
Okay, so under the recommendation, I'm seeing that the recommendation of approve would result in a budget revision to the capital budget of $417,000. So that sort of would be what that number is?
That's the difference.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. They're talking about producing these and making these available in 6 months. Does that fit in with I know this is a major piece. There's no program without the bus, without the vans. Where does this stand in terms of MTD's now planned, whatever the planned timeline is for the rollout of the microtransit pilot?
Good question. We've been this close several times on vehicles, and so it was unfortunate that the diesel option, we were told was going to go into production, and then they said, you know what, we're not even building that, and so that's why we had to move on and look to another one. So honestly, the planning side of things is 95% complete. The rest is just to train and get ready operationally. So we really do have to wait on the vehicles to see what kind of timeline. So we're not ready to set this is a date that we're going to be in operation, because you know how building vehicles goes. So until it's on the line being produced, I don't think we're ready to set any dates, but we want to start it as soon as we can, and start spending that LC top money on operations and provide some service to the public.
Thank you. I can understand the complexity of having this all kind of come together. Maybe it will come together at the same time and will work out just great. The last thing I just wanted to ask is on the HPIV, that the board be apprised on the success. It doesn't sound like it's necessarily a for sure thing. And, you know, I know we apply for funding whenever opportunities exist, but that doesn't mean you're going to bat 1,000.
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Hit that mute.
Sorry.
Director Rodriguez. Yeah, no, Director Rodriguez, thank you.
I had a similar question as Mr. Sheeler. What if we don't get that grant, that HVIP grant? Then where are we going to look to for the funding?
Well, we have sufficient STA funds to cover the costs, and that's our plan. That's what the budget revision's for. So we're showing you total costs with the assumption that we will not get any type of incentive. If we get the incentive, it'll free up those funds back to our capital reserve.
Okay. Thank you. That clarifies it. Thank you.
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay, other questions? If not, Madam Clerk, Director McQuarrie.
Is my speaker on right now? I can't.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're good.
I don't want to get too far ahead of things, but has the planning department thought about, you know, things like layovers and how we're going to do the bids? Because this is going to be somewhat different from our traditional fixed routes. And so we're going to have probably some lulls in service. And I'm just wondering, you know, how's that going to pan out in terms of this type of service versus a fixed route service, and how the drivers are assigned?
Good question. So, yeah, I mean, initially, again, because we don't have a sort of a start date, I think it'll probably start out as kind of a special service. You know, won't be sort of bid on in the same way, like you're saying. Down the road, that could change. Obviously, that has to do with operations and their processes. But as far as layover or overlap, it's actually sort of more elegant than that kind of structure with regular fixed route, in that the way that we have it planned out right now, one vehicle would start, you know, at a certain hour of the morning, be out there for the first hour kind of by itself, and then the next one would add in kind of as demand increases a little. Then somewhere in there's a break, but they don't break at the same time, right? And lunch. And so one would always be available until like the last hour of the day, when the person who started first would get off, and then the last vehicle would be out there on its own for the last hour. So the good thing about these vehicles, right, is it's easier to physically lay over in just a parking spot. It's not like having to go, we're not going to go park a bus in a neighborhood or anything. So that is nice. So yeah, I think it'll actually be easier than we deal with on other vehicles. And of course, it could be that it's not just one driver doing that block all day, but we'll figure that out. But we've got it mostly dialed in at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who wishes to speak on this item?
We have no public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will move to board comments before I get to a motion. As I see this, staff recommendation is a two-part motion. One is to authorize the general manager to purchase 3 2021 Ford Transit passenger vans for a total cost of $677,053. And 2, to approve a revision of the capital budget in the amount of $417,053. And that, of course, would come back in the first quarter to be part of the capital budget revision at that time. But if we do go to a motion, that would be the motion that we'd be looking for. Are there any comments by the board before I look for a motion? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to that effect. Director Sheeler, making the motion.
I just had a comment before somebody makes. Yeah, I just had a comment before somebody makes a motion. I just want to say I'm Actually, I know there's a significant cost increase in this. Hopefully that will be eroded over time with the comparison of the cost of electricity versus the cost of diesel. But I think this is actually a good break for the district. I was kind of distraught that we were having to buy these transit buses as diesels when we're really trying to move in the other direction. So for this to actually break in this direction, I'm happy about it and hope it works out great.
I second that emotion. I'm really pleased to see this also. Okay, any other comments? The only other comment I would make was excellent report. Oh, Director Perotti.
Thank you. I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to say it's exciting to see this moving forward. I know that I've had the opportunity to talk to several Goleta residents about this, and they are definitely excited about it. So yay, we're moving forward. Hopefully, we'll get through the pandemic and we'll be able to access this service. And thank you. I like the design. I like the colors. Look forward to seeing it on the road.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'm looking for a motion as I outlined. Is there a motion to that effect? Director Perotti made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Tabor made the second. Okay, we will do a roll call on that. Director Perotti.
Aye.
Director McQuarrie. You're muted, Chuck. There we go. Come on, buddy.
How's that?
That's good. And your vote?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Director Rodriguez?
Yes.
Director Sheeler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Tabor?
Yes.
Chair Davis votes yes, so the motion is 6 with one absent. That's Director Weinberg. Thank you very much. And Ms. White, good report. Thank you. Good job. And Hillary, thank you for moving this along and making this happen. You're going to have your hands full when it actually hits the ground. Okay, that then would take us to item 9. This is the ChargePoint electric vehicle charger procurement. Mr. Estrada?
Yes.
You want to open it?
Absolutely. I'll be handing this off to Mr. Grip, our capital project manager, in a moment. This is a follow-up to the matter that we brought before the board previously that was approved, which is the SE Charge Ready Transport Program for heavy-duty buses. And the next step for us is to approve the acquisition of chargers for those ports. And it's anywhere from 10 to 14. But I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Grip to give you the details and our recommendation. Ryan?
Thank you so much, General Manager Estrada, members of the board. Good morning. I'd like to extend my congratulations as well to Director Rodriguez for a long and successful tenure on the board. Been a pleasure knowing you, working with you, and I'm excited for your future endeavors. So jumping into, we'll start with the recommendation itself. So staff is requesting the board to authorize the general manager to purchase 10 heavy-duty electric vehicle chargers from ChargePoint for $632,120 with the option of 4 additional chargers, which would bring the total cost to $881,028. So the background of this, what is the genesis of this ask? It's exactly what General Manager Estrada was mentioning. So MTD's Charge Ready program requires acquisition of buses and chargers equivalent to the infrastructure that they install. So for a project, if they install 10 charge ports, you have to purchase 10 chargers. Our project has actually been approved for a range of infrastructure or charge ports between 10 and 14. And that's why we're recommending kind of a base of 10 chargers with the option of 4 more. And really what that comes down to is the design and configuration of those chargers. So as you see before you, this is a conceptual drawing of how the chargers would be laid out. To give you a frame of reference of what we're looking at, this is the maintenance canopy that is adjacent to the bus wash right along Salsapueta Street on the far right. So that the 10 base chargers, looking at the diagram itself, everything with a number 2 next to it is a charger under that canopy. So what we're looking at in terms of the questionable chargers, those that we may or may not install, are the ones on the far right, closest to South Sepuetas, everywhere you see a 2 in a linear fashion. Those 4 right there will be dependent upon when we actually dive into the design, whether or not it makes sense. And the challenge with that particular row of chargers is that it's only one way in and one way out. And that makes it very difficult for maintenance personnel, bus operators to pull the vehicles into that specific row of chargers. And so there's, those challenges will be taken into consideration when we come up with a final design. So that's the reason for the range of the base of 10 and then possibly gearing up to 14. And that will be fleshed out during the actual design phase. So, why ChargePoint? ChargePoint's a dominant manufacturer in EV charging equipment, initially on the light duty side, and then now on the heavy duty side. And MTD's 14 light duty chargers that we use to charge the Chevrolet Bolts that will be used also for the microtransit vans that were just introduced. Those are all ChargePoint, and the continuity is really, really key in terms of charging equipment. The reason being is, in terms of warranty repairs, in terms of analytics, so the data that we get from the chargers themselves, as well as charger management. So one of the nice things about ChargePoint, and many of the new heavy-duty charger manufacturers are offering this as well, is you can log into a portal. It'll not only provide you with all of the information about a single charger, energy that was used to charge into its specific vehicles, but it also allows you to schedule that charging time. And what's nice about that is that allows then MTD to schedule charging to take place off-peak, which is key in terms of, as we determine the cost of energy, making sure that we're being as strategic as possible on when we're charging these vehicles. The other unique advantage to the ChargePoint product is that it allows doubling up of the chargers. So the energy output of a single charger is 62.5 kilowatts. You can actually double that for a total of 125 kilowatts. The advantage being is that it increases the speed of charge. The only drawback to that is, as I was alluding to, cost of energy. And really that comes down to the facilities related demand charges. As you spike your energy use, you get hit with demand charges. So we'll have to moderate that, but it's a tool in our toolkit in case we need to quickly charge a bus and get it out onto the road. So in terms of budget and funding, as you see before you, as I mentioned, for 10 chargers, $632,120. For the total of 14, it's $881,028. MTD does have sufficient Transportation Development Act state transit assistant monies to cover the cost of the acquisition. And a nice feature too of SCE's Charge Ready program is they offer a rebate on the chargers up to 50% or $20,500 per charger. Now that is not a guarantee, but that is something that is offered for the light duty project for the 14 chargers for the Bolts. We did receive the full rebate amount on each one of those chargers. So I am optimistic we will also receive the full rebate amount for the heavy duty chargers as well. In terms of the solicitation process, very similar to the process Ms. White was talking about in terms of cooperative purchasing. Instead of CalAct in this case, we looked at Sourcewell. And Sourcewell provides cooperative purchasing contracts to government institutions, education, nonprofit organizations, and the like. They follow all best practices in terms of procurement standards. We, of course, evaluate the procurement to make sure that it meets MTD's specific standards, which it did. And then we always create an ICE, as Ms. White was talking about, as we go into a project, an independent cost estimate. For this particular project, The base cost per unit we came up with in the ICE was $45,602. We then compared that with ChargePoint's list price and the Sourcewell contract, the Sourcewell contract being the least of those and representing a savings from the ICE of 15% and of ChargePoint's list price of 5%. As a result of all that, we've determined that the price under the Sourcewell contract for a base unit CPE 250 ChargePoint charger is indeed fair and reasonable. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
I think the chair might be muted.
Can you hear me? The overhead, that whole arrangement there, have we actually put any 40-foot buses through there to see the maneuverability?
We have indeed. That's a good question. So we use that actively, or a maintenance team uses that actively to repair vehicles. And prior, it was used to charge our shuttles that we had prior. So we know that we can get into most of those bays fairly easily. And that's why that last row closest to South Sepuetas with the 4 chargers is in question. And we're going to have to look at that very carefully and make that determination of, do we want to go ahead and go with 14, knowing that that row is going to be very difficult to get into and out of, because the only way to do that is right off of that South Sepuetas exit. On the other side is actually the maintenance offices. So you can only go in the same way that you came out. And we'll have our design team really investigate that.
Yeah, because it's, as I say, the maneuverability, it's pretty tight quarters. And I know we have, very talented drivers. But I know in the past years ago, we had one bus that came out of that area and took off half the maintenance building. So I'm just, I just know that maneuvering in there is going to be tight. So it's just hard to realize that a 40-footer can get in there and maneuver. But I'm sure you're going to have that all checked out. But it's going to be tight.
It will. That's a great point.
Dave, we can't hear you.
You're muted currently.
I'm not doing that, guys. It's just happening. Yeah. It's weird. Okay. Any other questions? Director Tabor.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned the commitment from Edison to, once they put the infrastructure in, to put in the charging units. There's also a commitment to get the vehicles to plug into these units as well. Could you remind me what the time frame of that is?
Absolutely. Great question. It's 10 years from the time that we execute the agreement. And that is a trade-off. That's a good point. The infrastructure, they don't just hand it over. They want the agencies that they're providing the infrastructure for to make a commitment for the acquisition of the vehicles that will be utilizing the infrastructure, as well as the chargers themselves. That's the way that they prevent businesses from just applying to this program. SCE comes in and upgrades their facilities, and then the business says, well, now my building is worth 10% more thanks to the infrastructure SCE put in. We're just going to go ahead and sell that. That's not the intent of this program. And so that's why participants need to make their own commitments through the vehicles and the chargers themselves.
Other questions? Director Sheeler.
Thank you, Chair. I guess there is a question and a comment kind of woven together in this. The first one had to do with the issue of maneuverability and seeing the constraints at T1 on that one area of the bay. And just wondering, I assume this is being taken into account, but is there any design availability at T2 to be able to set it up to be able to charge and be accessible to maintenance so that it's actually all carried out for electric vehicle charging and maintenance?
Yeah, I'll
Great
take it.
question. Oh, I'm sorry, please. Mr.
Yeah, currently the canopy area on Terminal 1 that we're discussing, we park diesel buses there now, 40 footers. So maneuverability, is something we deal with there. Obviously, we have the Stantec team that we'll be using to help us on the design to make sure we get it enhanced for these electrics that we're talking about in the long run. As far as Terminal 2, I know we're really anxious to get into that property, but we need to really, that project will start with just basic recommissioning like fencing, getting the fueling system, getting the building and the bathrooms up. And from there, we're going to have to go out and find quite a bit of capital, probably discretionary funding to take it to that next level that I think we're all eager to see. So that's a conversation I think next year we'll have to have, and I'm looking forward to it. But as far as this project at Terminal 1, I think we're in pretty good shape. And we have the Stantec team lined up to help us with that.
The next thing I learned from this report was about the demand charge and the issue of when you actually pair the chargers and its effect on demand charge. So maybe just a little more information. Is it possible to consult with the Central Coast Community Energy, or I guess in this case, it'll be whatever City of Santa Barbara will be providing, so that the time of use at peak, when we have to actually fast charge buses in order to make runs, doesn't have an adverse impact on the district in terms of its budget. Because I think there's a great synergy between what they're attempting to achieve and what MTD is then trying to do on everyone's behalf.
That's a great question. And we'll certainly be working with the city of Santa Barbara. We have a good relationship with them now. We work with Olivia very closely, in fact, in a recent grant project. So we will communicate those needs. SCE has provided the break in demand charges for a 5-year period to incentivize fleets to electrify, and we're taking advantage of that now fully. It'll be interesting to see how that works itself through at the end of that period. In terms of, demand charges are an important cost for SCE in terms of them to be able to maintenance and new infrastructure. So it's an important funding mechanism, but at the same time, it's a challenge for agencies or fleets like ours who are electrifying because it's such a significant cost. So right now, I think our major approach is to be as strategic as possible. Time when we charge these vehicles, use photovoltaics and battery storage systems to withdraw energy during peak times. So we would, charge those batteries, and then we would draw when SCE is charging the most for energy, in essence. So a lot of these little strategies will work together to really help to combat the facilities-related demand charges that MTD will occur in the future. I mean, there will be some of it regardless. And that's why I wanted to, in talking about the pairing is nice, as you're pointing out, but then the challenge being the opposite side of that there's a real hit in terms of cost when you're drawing that much energy at one time. So it would be more for, when MTD really needs to get that bus out on the road rather than a regular thing to do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Other questions? Okay, I have a question on the motion. On the previous item, we had a second item to approve the revision of the capital budget. Should we do that in this one also, General Manager Estrada?
Yes.
Okay, great. Madam Clerk, is there anybody who wishes to speak on this item?
No public comments at this time.
Great, thank you very much. Brings us back to the board for any comments at this point and a motion. The motion, by the way, would be to one, authorize the general manager to purchase 10 heavy-duty electric vehicle chargers from ChargePoint Inc. And two, to approve the revision of the capital budget in the amount of $881,028. Comments? Bill?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to see this. This is good information, and because this is consistent with MTD's strategic plan, which is to pursue the alternative fuel path, looking towards a renewable fleet by 2030, 10 years from now. This is a 10-year contract, so this is consistent as well. So I would like to make a motion to approve this as requested.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Director Rodriguez has seconded the motion. We will do a roll call vote. Director Perotti,
Aye.
Director Macquarie,
Yes.
Director Rodriguez,
Yes.
Director Sheeler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tabor,
Yes.
Chair Davis votes yes. The motion passes 6 with 1 absent. Director Weinberg. Thank you very much, Mr. Grip. Good report again. Excellent report.
Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Looking forward to moving ahead on all of this work. Takes us into the next item on our agenda. This is item 10, the First Amendment to the funding agreement with Santa Barbara County Association of Governments for the MTD facility improvements. Mr. Estrada.
Yes, yeah, thank you. You may recall MTD, the board actually approved an agreement with SBCAG for these funds for facility improvements such as this previously a few years ago when the TIRSIP funds were first awarded to SBCAG for these projects. We went ahead and used the first 300,000 of the 1.5 million to complete our facilities master plan, which has served us very well already. Now there's 1.2 million for improvements that we'd like to use at Terminal 2. Caltrans has advised SBCAG staff that they'd like us to bring it back before the board.
Could you help me for a second?
They'd like to bring us back before the board for approval of the specifics under the scope of work, which we've listed here. So it's really kind of they've asked us to do it again, be a little more specific in there, which we've done. And we're targeting Terminal 2 with these funds. With 1.2 million, there isn't everything we'd like to be able to do. As you know, it's going to take tens of millions to get that facility up and running the way we want. But this is something that hopefully allow us to recommission and get the facility open for use now. So that's where we are and why we're here today with this item. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
And are there any questions of General Manager Estrada? Sorry if that interrupts you there, Jerry.
No worries.
No, I don't see anything. Madam Clerk, anyone wishing to speak from the public?
We have no public comments.
Excellent. Okay. The action here is to authorize the execution of the attached First Amendment to the funding agreement with SBCAG. Do I have a motion?
So
I have a
moved.
motion. Okay, I have a motion by Macquarie and second by Director Tabor. Roll call vote. Director Perotti,
Yes.
Director Macquarie,
Yes.
Director Rodriguez,
Yes.
Director Sheeler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tabor,
Yes.
Chair Davis votes yes. The motion passes 6 to 1 with Director Weinberg absent.
Chair, before
Excellent.
we leave this, I would
Yes,
just like to thank MTD staff and acknowledge their collaboration with SBCAG and working together to get these things accomplished. Great job.
Here. Okay, moves us to item 11. This is the fiscal year 2020-2021 first quarter performance reports.
Yes, I'll be handing this off to Ms. Blackerby to walk you through the ridership figures, and I'm available to answer any questions regarding the remainder of the report. Hillary?
Hey, good morning, Chair and Board, and I want to add my congratulations and thank you to Director Rodriguez for her years of service, and I know she was very welcoming to me when I joined the team here 4 years ago, so I wish you free time on Tuesdays and doing whatever you want to do. And we'll see you again soon, I'm sure. So
Thank you.
first, before I get started, I want to acknowledge a typographical error, which is horrifying to me, at the beginning of the ridership summary, where it says system-wide ridership increased during the first quarter. Basically, the word increased should be removed. And then the numbers are correct for the first quarter, totaling 544,425 passengers in that quarter. That number is off slightly in the table on the second page there, but by about 1,000. So apologies for that, but we'll see in the slides. We can go to the next slide. Again, we just kind of did this with the annual report, but we look at these same key performance indicators. I won't read them all off to you because we'll see them on the next slide, so we can go ahead and move on. So ridership by fare category. This is something, the blue is last fiscal year, green or teal is this. I mentioned last month that free is captured in other, and as you can see, other is winning the race here. Obviously, this is the actually the second full quarter of not collecting fares, but obviously the first quarter of this fiscal year. There's barely perceptible little teal under adult students and senior and disabled. Those are either sort of keying errors on the fare box, or sometimes, at the transit center or something like that, bus driver might have stepped off the bus and people might have boarded and tapped their ID or paid without the driver seeing it. So essentially, no fares collected in that first quarter, and obviously that's down significantly. It's it's 60 for the quarter. We were down 62.8%. So next slide. You can see here, this quarter, the first quarter is July, August, September. It's actually usually a little lower ridership just because of summer. Student numbers are down a bit. And so total passengers last fiscal year in Q1 was a little under 1.5 million. Our revenue hours and revenue miles are obviously down, as are our passengers per revenue hour and passengers per mile. Next slide. So this is interesting because we always do this, and we see quarter over quarter, or each quarter, which are our top lines by ridership. And some of the ones listed here are usually, this actually isn't that far off from what a first quarter ridership, what the big heavy hitters would be. Line 11 and 6, we know those are our workhorses. Lines 1 and 2, East and West Santa Barbara, and then line 20, Carpinteria. Obviously, the numbers are much smaller than they would normally be. Usually be, a 24X, maybe a 28 towards the end. But since this is kind of the end of summer, it's not really our big UCSB numbers. Now, when we show you second quarter numbers after the beginning of the year, our October, November, December are really big months for us for ridership generally, especially out at the university and college. And that's where we'll see, a significant hit, even though daily or, on a mostly daily, weekly basis, we're still seeing ridership click back up. Certainly not as fast as maybe we would like, but as fast as we can sort of handle at this point. Next slide. Top 5 lines by passengers per hour. Again, this is different because of the service we have out there right now. line 1. When you look at passengers per hour, right, you have to think of what the length of the route is. And the line 1 on the west side is really short. It's really quick little loop, as is the 17 through the lower west. And so since they're shorter, they're carrying more people per hour, right? It's a quicker trip, but they're still pretty well traveled. Line 6 and 11, right? They're not that far off, 13 passengers per hour, 15.1. That's a long trip. And so end to end, right? Which most people aren't going from end to end on those, but we can see that it's still, they still hold their own and are very well used, you know, looking at the capacity that we're able to carry at this point. Next slide. These numbers at a glance, again, ridership down 62.8 at capacity loads. I mentioned this at our annual report, but, you know, in the before times, our at capacity loads and 2 full to board loads, those would generally track together. And for people watching who might not know what these terms mean, at capacity generally means, okay, you know, we're at the, you know, maybe a standing load with room for a few more people, and the driver hits a certain code on the fare box to log that when that happens. But when the bus is so full that they cannot load any more people, then they do what's called a star 9, and that's 2 full to board. They couldn't fit a single other person on. Now that used to mean standing loads, sardines on a bus, usually out in Isla Vista, but now it means 15 people on a 40-foot bus, right? And so they've basically stopped doing at capacity because they're sort of the same thing at this point. And so 2 full to board loads were up 204.1% over the first quarter last year. Wheelchair boardings is down, but this is fascinating. Not shocking if you've been paying attention to the news and what's been happening with the resurgence in, or really the surge in interest in bicycles and bicycle ownership. If you have a bike now, congratulations, because if you want to try to get one, they're sold out till late next year, way on back order. This is fascinating. With ridership down 62.8% in that first quarter, the number of bicycles we carried is actually up slightly, which is amazing. It's up 0.4%, but it's up. And so we've got, I think it was like 94 or 95 more bikes carried in the first quarter than we did the year before. This is obviously pretty fascinating. And I would love, as we sort of get the bandwidth to do it, I would love to survey our passengers who bring their bikes to find out, you know, is this new that you're bringing this? Has this changed what your travel patterns look like? It could be that people are riding the bus for, say, distances that are a little too far to bike, or maybe on the, you know, sort of freeway express routes, but then they're doing more of their trip on their bike. It's just very interesting data and something that I want to dive deeper into, because we know that our passengers are not just bus riders, but they're pedestrians and they're cyclists, and car owners as well. So we can move to the next slide. On-time performance, really good. This is actually pretty exciting that of the 16 lines that we've measured, 15 of them are above 90% on time. And as a reminder, our sort of threshold for concern, or, you know, we want everything to be at least 80% on time performance or higher. And we're there. The one line that fell below 90 was between 86 and 90%. And that's really exciting. It's something we're really proud of. Obviously, I mean, if you've been out in the world, you've noticed that there is, you know, traffic's kind of coming back. So the only line that fell in that 86 to 90% was line 20, but it's still it still looks really good. And I know I've said it before, but I'll say it as many times as I can in public and in private. I really appreciate the work that the planning department has done over the past several years to really focus on on-time performance. We have this Clever Devices system that gives us so much rich data, and we're able to really refine. Some of it was refining, some of it was major overhauls of schedules, but pre-pandemic and in a pandemic, our on-time performance is really good. And I think that's something we're all really proud of, because, you know, people deserve to kind of have some certainty in their lives about when their bus is coming and when it's going to get them there. And the next slide just shows service, system-wide on-time performance by amount of service on lines. This is a little less interesting this month, though it's nice to see you 100% donut here. We look at the amount of service online. So how many trips, you know, if we were to see that the 6 and 11 were ones that were below 80, that's a lot of trips, right? So right now this month, because everything was above 80%, that's 74,378 trips were, you know, on time at least 80% of the time, and most of them were above 90%. So I believe that's my last slide. Happy to take any questions.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Hillary, for a great presentation. I keep thinking of this stuff, though, it's like in the sports books where you put an asterisk next to everything. Like this year is just going to be the weirdest year, and the future comparisons, I don't know, you got to set it aside to really, yeah. So anyway, kudos to all of you, basically, like keeping track of all this stuff and trying to basically make sense of it at the same time. And I had one really basic question before I open it to the board, and that is, I'm assuming that the drivers are all having to hand count. Is that what we're doing?
No, thankfully, they when someone boards, they basically hit the free button on the fare box. So, I mean, I guess by hand count, they use their hand to push a button,
Yeah,
which then counts in the fare box.
But the passenger is hitting the button.
No. They are the passengers boarding the back door, and then
that it is a hand count. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. Interesting. Very good. Okay, questions from the board. Director Tabor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Blackerby. I also noticed the bike rack or the bike issue. Expecting it just to be UCSB related, but it's Goleta, it's Montecito, it's Carpinteria, it's East Side, West Side, Mesa. It's all over. Prompts the question of when might be a time to consider our bike rack capacity. As ridership increases, I'd expect this number to go up as well.
Jerry?
It's a project we've had on our list. We always are looking for funding to do it. It's something that we'll look at again closer and see if we can find a funding source, if not our existing reserves. But as you know, we have a pretty long list of capital projects right now that we're dealing with. And I also think, you know, one of the factors too is the fact that we've suspended so many coverage routes. So obviously maybe folks that were relying on those coverage routes are now using a bike to get to the corridor, that sort of thing too. So that's a big question in the long term. What's going to happen with those routes based on our funding availability? So there's a huge discussion, and I think this will just be one aspect of it.
Yeah, I think philosophically, that's a question we'll probably have to look at in the near future, or just kind of like the whole enchilada kind of question. So maybe sometime when we get into budget talks this year, it's time to bring that up. Concerning the chair's comment about asterisks, it seems like every quarter there's another asterisk on there, and wanted to ask, since December seems to also be an asterisk, when we get to the second quarter report, is it possible to kind of break December out so we can look at the numbers separately, do it month by month?
When you say December, do you mean because of the new shutdown?
Correct.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do. They are on our website. We do. I mean, December isn't yet because it hasn't happened yet, but we do put monthly reports that are structured much the same way on our website. We're happy to provide those to the board as well so that we can see that. But yeah, we can pull out some the monthly numbers in the report for the second quarter. And yeah, we'll be able to see a little more specifically what's happening. You know, it's a little hard to tell so far, but Monday's numbers weren't, you know, we look at this every day actually. And Monday's numbers weren't drastically less than say last week, but it'll be interesting to see how that changes.
Other questions? Director Sheeler?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to talk about the 2 full to board loads. I know it may be a generalization of sorts, but at this point, our ridership is pretty much whittled down to people that are transit dependent. So it's really not a discretionary thing. It's people probably needing to go to work or something like that. And to miss a bus could be impactful in their lives. And to see that the numbers on the 2 full to board loads, I certainly could expect the 6 and 11. I see that. But the 20, that was interesting to see that from Carpinteria is also one as well. What is MTD's way of dealing with this issue when it's 2 full to board? Are riders then usually accommodated by the next available bus?
Great question. So up to I guess last week, and because we started a new bid on November 30th, so it's sort of a different structure of our runs and the way that the work is distributed amongst drivers. The way that we were handling that is we come up with these sort of booster combos, is kind of what we call them. And we look, like I said, on a daily basis at these 2 full to board loads on the trip level. What trip, what line, are they consistently every day turning people away? And we put those together as elegantly as possible into a run, into a day's work, basically. And so a driver may do a 6 out, an 11 back in, a 20, a 1 and 2, and connect all those on those trips where we know there's a fair amount of impact. And we're seeing, we have those, I think there are 3 different ones of those that we're running Monday through Friday. There were 2 on Saturday. We recently added 2 on Sunday as well. And we, as our driver ranks, you know, go up or down, hiring or vacations or things like that, operations is doing that as when we have the people, it's being done. So that is something that we're paying attention to, looking at changing as patterns change, but it's certainly been welcomed. You don't necessarily know if, but you know, they're not sort of advertised because we can't necessarily guarantee that that booster is going to be there at that time every day. But generally, we're having that bus come along behind so that they can pick folks up, and they're definitely carrying a fair amount of people. So we know on some of these lines, I mean, you can see from the 2 full to board, and you can see, you know, we can see internally from the numbers on these boosters, there's definitely demand out there for more than 15 spots on each trip.
Yeah, I'd like to add, you know, I commend the planning staff and the operations team for their work with this. They've used the data through analysis to identify where the needs are. They've rolled that into not only the bid process, but through the boosters. And really, I think the factor that's holding us back from getting those numbers down, besides obviously the limitation, is the number of drivers that we can hire, train, and get out in the field. That takes time. It also takes, you know, people being available. But then we run into the issue that's always on my mind of the big picture and where we're going to be down the line. And as we hire people, eventually we have to ask ourselves, should we continue to hire, depending on what our service is going to look like in the long term. So there are some, you know, big questions once again early next year that we're going to have to face, and this will roll up into that as well.
Thank you, Joe. Those are my questions.
Great, thank you, Bill. Other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Hillary, thank you for the report. I second Vice Chair Tabor's question as to like next time we report on this quarter, see what really happened from December through the end of the year. It's going to be an interesting, again, telltale as to how affected we will be.
Right, and December is always lower anyway, so the gulf may be not as wide as October and November. So, yeah, if only we could control all variables. But yeah, we'll definitely show you what's been going on.
Yeah, hey, I just made a note also, just in the entire report. Our system essentially was stress tested, if you want to use the term, right, to see essentially where the essential riders are and where our core ridership goes. So we will learn a lot in terms of planning for the future from this stress test that we've just all gone through. Thank you so much for the report. Thank you. I forgot to check, Madam Clerk. Did anyone wish to speak on this item?
No.
Okay.
We have no public comments.
Great, thank you very much. That takes us then to item 12. That's the General Manager's report. Mr. Estrada.
Yeah, I'll start off with the first item in the report. And, going forward, I'll probably put a slide together with the tables that are in the report, which show the average weekday ridership versus prior year on a monthly basis. And it shows the trend and what Ms. Blackerby just discussed, which was, we are seeing ridership return. What you see from October to November was a little bit of a flattening. I can tell you when you take a deeper dive of those numbers, we were doing really well at the beginning of November, trending higher, much faster. And then when you hit the holiday week, really Thanksgiving and the new order as we slipped back from red to purple in Santa Barbara County, we did see a little bit of a decrease in the numbers, not as much as I thought we would see. I'm really curious to see what the numbers are going to look like this week and to see if we see another decline here in December. And right now, though, the trend has continued to go up. That's something we like to see. And that's, primarily, as we've discussed, the essential worker out there that's relying on us. And again, I think it, reiterate our strategy, which was to focus on the lines and the frequency. We didn't cut back frequency. We stayed with weekday service levels on those core services. And we made the decision to suspend coverage routes, which was difficult. It's difficult for any agency to make that decision, but we've done that. That's 8 routes that have been suspended and continue to be so for now. And we'll see where we're going down the line. But I think it's served the community well so far under the circumstances, of course. The other 2 items I wanted to share in the report was the operations department working with DMV to get certified as an employer testing program. This is something that really affected us early on, is the inability to get trained individuals that we've trained certified, get licensed for service. And through this program, we can have our own trainers, examiners that can make that, make that happen for us. So Mr. Castanon was out there last week getting certified, working on towards, implementing that program again, which I think is just something we need to do in the long term. So that's something will make us better coming out of this pandemic. And I appreciate Mr. Castanon and Mr. Morris and the operations team making sure that gets done going forward. The last item on the report that I wanted to touch on briefly was our work with Cal ITIP, the integrated travel program from essentially through Caltrans. And we've been serving myself and Ms. Blackerby on different committees. I'm on a front end advisory panel, and it has to do with payment options, simplifying payment for public transit, for example, the use of mobile credentialing, that sort of thing, contactless payment systems, which don't exist smoothly. And it's a, it's a great program to be a part of. We're looking forward to doing a small demo for proof of concept with Cal ITIP early next year. We're focusing on 1 line or maybe 2 out near UCSB. It'd be ideal if we were able to test certain features for them to help them move their program along. So again, something we wanted to share with you as we move forward on a lot of different fronts, from zero emission to also contactless payment. There's a lot going on, despite the pandemic. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for General Manager Estrada? Vice Chair Tabor.
First, a comment. I was wanting to mention during the last item. It always amazes me how many reports and monthly reports, quarterly reports, annual reports you and your staff have to do to show compliance with all the programs we're a part of and the monies we receive from different areas. And hard for me to imagine what percentage of your time goes into doing that rather than straight up operations. But no, accountability is important. So I appreciate the effort to keep all the arrows pointing in the right direction on those. I forgot my question now.
And that happened to me every day. Okay, other comments, questions for Jerry? Okay, not seeing any. That takes us to other business and reports. Jerry, I'm just going to right here ask you if you could just give us a little status on the Kyriel ad hoc. I think we're looking at possibly scheduling a meeting later this month.
Correct. We had initially or tentatively hoped for a meeting next Tuesday. I think we're going to have to back it up a week or two just to get a little bit more data, but we're still on schedule from a big picture of the original timing we laid out to get through that process. So I'll be reaching out to the ad hoc in the next day or two. I'll be meeting with the team this afternoon after the meeting.
Perfect, perfect. Good timing. Thank you very much for that. Are there any other comments or reports you wish to make transit related today? Okay. Not seeing any. I will then move to item 14. I'm going to call item 14 and 15 back to back. Item 14 is a recess to closed session on public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 and 54954.5 subsection E to evaluate the performance of the district's general manager. Item 15 is a recess to closed session with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection B regarding significant exposure to potential litigation based on existing facts and circumstances, an unknown number of cases. Madam Clerk, is there anyone wishes to speak on either item 14 or item 15?
We don't have any requests at this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to go into closed session. So we will ask everybody to close out. Jerry, you have the bill?
Chair, when is our next regularly scheduled board meeting? And will we have a new member on board by then?
Jerry?
Yeah, our next scheduled meeting would be the first Tuesday in January, assuming we have sufficient agenda items. I believe we will have an answer on the 2 positions from the city, but it's not necessarily a given yet. But I would hope, in January would be fine.
Okay, yeah, I would have liked to take that under adjournment because we're right in the middle of the closed session, but we'll deal with that next time. Okay, so I do have, again, those 2 closed sessions. I have no public comment. Jerry, you have the control of the as host, right? And so I'm going to ask everyone who. Go ahead.
Chair Davis, I have control. I'm currently host, so after I end the recording and the live stream, I will transfer host privileges to Chair Davis, at which point I'll make sure that staff have exited the meeting and exit myself. When we come back into session.
You can make Jerry a host also because he's going to be in both of these. He's not stepping out. He will be in both.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you for that, though. That's exactly why I was asking the question. You answered it for me. So with that, we will stand adjourned into closed session. We will come back into session after closed session with a report out. Okay. So we're going to take a 4-minute break right here and we'll be back.